Hey up, this is Gembate. It's the 22nd of January 2019. I've got a book review here for Catholics. Benedict the XVI, Last Testament, in his own words, with Peter Seewald, 2016. Now, in my opinion, the Pope is a modernist, and I see them as being default left, indoctrinated, holding unquestioned assumptions. He associated with the UN, with leftists, with communists, including Fidel Castro, though admitting there were aspects that they would never agree on. And in general, the leftist popes don't make any excuse for their politics, even explain or examine their indoctrination, even when there is a clear link between Marxism, Freemasonry and modernism. So yeah, he saw it as his role to slow down the changes and make it so the church didn't appear to drop its traditional base all in one go. But the aim is still to modernise. He said, "To turn everything on its head so promptly did not seem right to me." Firstly, the interviewer spent most of the time name-dropping in an obvious display of ego gratification. Then right at the end, he asked questions about God that displayed a lack of personal experience with the Creator. So why interview a spiritual leader when you don't have any experience with spirituality? Good question. Seewald asks how to listen to God. Benedict gives the answer. "Well now, you just beg the Lord. You must help me now, and collect yourself inwardly and stay silent. Then one can time again knock on the door with prayer, and thus you're already doing it. One simply knows I'm not the one doing things. I could not do it alone. He is constantly there. I must only listen and make myself wide open for him." So yeah, that spiritual base that he has, I always admired. But I started to notice some disturbing comments earlier in the book, which made me realise, and I've seen this before, that people can be close to God yet still be in a state of mental indoctrination, political naivety, be misled or be misleading. So firstly, as an example of that, he makes a frivolous joke about Freemasonry, talking about the council. Now, actually, we weren't really aware that we were doing anything stupendous. We didn't make any decisions there, but developed ideas. How it then got spread about the whole council, I do not know. Of course, we were awash with polemics that we produced a typically Freemasonic text and such things. The interviewer asks, "You were charged with that?" Haha, yes, although I really shouldn't be held in suspicion of being a Freemason. So, joking about Freemasonry as if it's like a frivolous matter. Considering the history of the Masonic attempts to subvert the church, for example, in 1917, in St. Peter's Piazza, near the Vatican, on June the 2nd, a 200th centenary of Freemasonry march was held, and the banner stated, "Satan must reign in the Vatican. The Pope will be his slave." Yeah, that doesn't sound like much to joke about. So yeah, at this point I'll just reference the videos that are very useful. I've got 2 videos about Freemasonry, including one from a survivor, a good one from Remnant TV, a great thorough investigation by Anne Barnhart, And John Vanari, Pope Francis, Modernism with a Smile. That's a good overview as well. I recommend watching those. Right, we turn to page 191. After the great upheavals of the post-conciliar period on the council, the whole confusion surrounding the question of how the council should actually be read, on the whole, the situation in our society is such that Christianity must orientate itself afresh, define itself, realize itself. So these words by Benedict are a bit puzzling. Define itself? Realize itself? For 2,000 years it hasn't needed to do that. So that seems a bit peculiar. Turn to page 201. Talking about the Latin Mass. Sure, first because there was fear of, let's say, the Restoration, and second, some people who simply misunderstood the Reform. It was certainly not as though there would now be another Mass. There are two ways to represent it ritually, but they belong to one fundamental rite. As I have always said, and even still say, that it was important that something that was previously the most sacred thing in the church to people should not be completely, suddenly forbidden. A society that considers now to be forbidden what it once perceived as its central core, that cannot be. The inner identity, it has to, with the other, remain visible. So for me, it was not about tactical matters and God knows what, but the inward reconciliation with the church, with itself. He goes on. It was important for me that the church is one with herself inwardly, with her own past, that what was previously holy to her is not somehow wrong now. The right must develop. In that sense, reform is appropriate, but the continuity must not be ruptured. The society of St. Pius X is based on the fact that people felt the church was renouncing itself. That must not be. Of course, it's also the case that at the moment one sees a church schism looming, the Pope is obliged to do whatever is possible to prevent it happening. This also includes the attempt to lead these people back to unity with the church, if possible. Unity with the church? There already was unity before Vatican II reformers. That seems a little arrogant to me. On his political stance, a quote, "One is beginning to wonder if things were not always better under the rule of so-called conservatives than they are able to be under the dominance of progressivism." Yes, we can see where he stands. This is on the creation of the Catechism. The interviewer asks, "Did the idea to produce the Catechism of the Catholic Church come from you?" Benedict replies, "Not only me, but I was involved. More and more people ask themselves, then, does the Church still have a homogeneous set of doctrines? They no longer knew what the Church actually believes. There were some very strong tendencies, with really good people outside too, saying a catechism cannot be produced anymore. I said, either we still have something to say, in which case one must be able to describe it, or we have nothing left to say. In this way, I made myself a champion of the idea, with the conviction that we must be in a position to say what the Church believes and teaches today." No longer knew what the Church actually believes after 2,000 years. So, Pope John Paul II wrote at the beginning of the Catechism, "The principal task entrusted to the Council by Pope John the 23rd was to guard and present better the precious deposit of Christian doctrine in order to make it more accessible to the Christian faithful and to all the people of goodwill. For this reason, the council was not first of all to condemn the errors of the time, but above all to strive calmly to show the strength and beauty of the doctrine of the faith. Right, but surely condemning errors, sins, fighting evil is one of the main purposes of the church. To impart such teaching to sinners is the greatest help that can be offered them. To help them see the error of their ways and to repent of evil, to keep people out of the snares of the devil, to keep people on the side of good. Without the condemnation of evil, that gives the opportunity for evil to flourish. So, to not condemn the errors of our time is a bit suspicious. It is clear that to me that society's direction is managed by evil forces. Through cultural Marxism, relativism, freemasonry, globalism, the church is being toned down, softened, so as to no longer be a threat to the evil of our times. Also, Pope John Paul II also said, local catechisms take into account various situations and cultures, while carefully preserving the unity of faith and fidelity to Catholic doctrine. Like, why is that necessary? Okay. I don't think there's any argument that modernism isn't cultural Marxism, relativism, and that they are tools of Freemasonry and the globalist elites, which is satanic. A couple of examples. Monsignor Dillon's 1885 book, the title, Grand Orient Freemasonry, Unmasked as the Secret Power Behind Communism. The Communist Manifesto, 1848, a few of the principal points: abolish the family, replace home education, destroy parent-child relationship, cancel marriage, abolish countries and nationalities, cancel religion and morality, remove Christian ideas. So, yeah, you can see a bit of a pattern there. For the church to be led by popes that even pay lip service to modernism and deny truth in Catholicism, replacing it with relative truth that changes over time and place, to enable Catholicism to be shaped by leftist, modernist, indoctrinated society and become more Protestant, well, it's outrageous.